Introduction. Millions of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck with little to no financial cushion. According to recent Federal Reserve and financial industry survey data, roughly 60% of U.S. adults report that they would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense. In this video, we rank the top 20 states where residents are most financially stretched. All figures are approximate estimates based on publicly available research from 2023 to 2025. The results may surprise you. Number 20. Illinois. Starting our list at number 20, Illinois sees approximately 61% of residents living paycheck to paycheck. The average personal savings rate in the state hovers around 4.8%, and only about 42% of households report having an adequate emergency fund. High property taxes and the cost of living in the Chicago metro area contribute significantly to the financial strain. Number 19. Oregon. Oregon comes in at number 19, with about 62% of its population living paycheck to paycheck. The state's savings rate sits at roughly 4.6%, and just 41% of residents say they have enough emergency savings to cover 3 months of expenses. Rising housing costs in Portland and across the Willamette Valley have pushed many families to the brink. Number 18. Nevada. Nevada ranks number 18, with around 62.5% of residents caught in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. The average savings rate is a modest 4.3%, and only about 39% of households maintain a proper emergency fund. Despite the tourism-driven economy in Las Vegas, many Nevada workers in the service and hospitality industries earn wages that barely cover the basics. Number 17. Arizona. Arizona takes the 17th spot, with about 63% of its residents living paycheck to paycheck. The state's personal savings rate is approximately 4.5%, and only 40% of households have an emergency fund that could sustain them for 3 months. Rapid population growth in Phoenix and Tucson has driven up housing costs faster than wages can keep up. Number 16. Georgia. Georgia lands at number 16, where roughly 63.5% of residents find themselves living paycheck to paycheck. The state's savings rate averages around 4.2%, and just 38% of Georgia households report having a sufficient emergency fund. While Atlanta's economy is booming, much of rural Georgia continues to struggle with lower wages and limited economic opportunity. Number 15. North Carolina. North Carolina checks in at number 15, with approximately 64% of residents living paycheck to paycheck. The savings rate across the state is about 4.1%, and only 37% of households have emergency funds to cover unexpected expenses. The contrast between the thriving Research Triangle area and struggling rural communities tells the story of two very different economic realities. Number 14. Tennessee. Tennessee takes the 14th spot, with around 64.5% of its population living paycheck to paycheck. The personal savings rate is roughly 3.9%, and only about 36% of residents have an emergency fund with at least 3 months of expenses. Despite having no state income tax, relatively low wages in many sectors keep Tennessee families financially vulnerable. Number 13. South Carolina. South Carolina comes in at number 13, where about 65% of residents are living paycheck to paycheck. The state savings rate is approximately 3.8%, and just 35% of households can cover an unexpected $1,000 expense from savings. Tourism-driven coastal economies and low-wage manufacturing jobs in the interior create persistent financial pressure for many families. Number 12. Ohio. Ohio ranks 12th, with roughly 65.5% of its residents stuck in the paycheck-to-paycheck grind. The average savings rate is just 3.7%, and only 34% of Ohio households maintain an adequate emergency fund. The decline of traditional manufacturing across cities like Dayton and Youngstown has left many workers in lower-paying service roles with little room to save. Number 11. Florida. Florida takes the 11th spot, with about 66% of residents living paycheck to paycheck. The state savings rate averages 3.6%, and only 35% of Floridians report having a healthy emergency fund. While there's no state income tax, the combination of rising insurance costs, surging housing prices, and a tourism-reliant economy leaves many residents financially exposed. Number 10. Texas. Breaking into the top 10, Texas has approximately 66.5% of its residents living paycheck to paycheck. The savings rate sits at around 3.5%, and just 34% of Texas households have built up an emergency fund. Despite a strong job market and no state income tax, the sheer size and economic diversity of the state means millions of Texans, especially in border communities, face persistent financial hardship. Number 9. California. California ranks 9th, with around 67% of its residents living paycheck to paycheck. Despite relatively high median incomes, the savings rate is only about 3.4%, and just 33% of households have an emergency fund covering 3 months of expenses. The main factor is a staggering cost of living, with median home prices exceeding $750,000 in many metro areas, and rent consuming over 35% of income for most renters. Number 8. Alabama. Alabama comes in at number 8, with approximately 67.5% of residents living paycheck to paycheck. The personal savings rate is a thin 3.2%, and only about 32% of Alabama households have a meaningful emergency fund. With a median household income of roughly $56,000, well below the national average, many Alabama families find it nearly impossible to set money aside after covering basic needs. Number 7. Arkansas. Arkansas takes the 7th spot, where roughly 68% of residents live paycheck to paycheck. The average savings rate is approximately 3.1%, and just 31% of households report having an emergency fund. Arkansas consistently ranks among the lowest states in median household income, at about $53,000, making it extremely difficult for working families to build any financial buffer. Number 6. New Jersey. New Jersey might surprise many at number 6, but about 68.5% of its residents live paycheck to paycheck. The state's savings rate is around 3.3%, and only 33% of households have adequate emergency savings. New Jersey's combination of sky-high property taxes, averaging over $9,400 per year, crushing housing costs, and expensive commuting to New York City squeezes even middle-class families dry. Number 5. Louisiana. Louisiana ranks 5th, with about 69% of residents trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. The savings rate is a meager 2.9%, and only about 30% of Louisiana households have an emergency fund. Persistent poverty in many rural parishes, combined with vulnerability to costly natural disasters like hurricanes, creates a perfect storm of financial insecurity for residents across the state. Number 4. New Mexico. New Mexico claims the 4th spot, with approximately 70% of residents living paycheck to paycheck. The state's savings rate is just 2.8%, and a mere 29% of households report having an emergency fund. With a median household income of around $54,000 and a poverty rate exceeding 18%, New Mexico faces deep structural economic challenges that keep many families in a constant state of financial fragility. Number 3. Hawaii. Hawaii takes the 3rd spot, with roughly 71% of residents living paycheck to paycheck. The state's savings rate is about 2.7%, and only 28% of households have emergency savings. While the islands are paradise for tourists, residents face a brutal cost of living. The median home price exceeds $900,000, groceries cost about 50% more than the mainland average, and gasoline prices regularly top $5 per gallon. Number 2. West Virginia. West Virginia comes in at a sobering 2nd place, with approximately 72% of residents living paycheck to paycheck. the savings rate is a razor-thin 2.5%, and only about 27% of households have any form of emergency fund. Decades of economic decline in the coal industry, limited job opportunities, and a median household income of just $51,000 have left the Mountain States residents among the most financially strained in the nation. Number 1. Mississippi. Mississippi tops the list as the state where the most people live, paycheck to paycheck, with an estimated 74% of residents in this precarious financial situation. The state's personal savings rate is just 2.3%, the lowest in the country, and only about 25% of households have an emergency fund. With the nation's lowest median household income at roughly $49,000 and a poverty rate above 19%, Mississippi exemplifies the deep financial struggles facing millions of Americans. Key patterns and trends. Looking at the data, two major patterns emerge. First, southern states dominate the list, with 8 of the top 20 spots, largely due to lower wages and limited access to financial resources. Second, high cost of living states like California, Hawaii, and New Jersey prove that earning more doesn't always mean saving more. When expenses eat up your income, even six-figure earners can find themselves financially stretched thin. The emergency fund crisis. One of the most alarming takeaways from this data is the emergency fund crisis. Across these 20 states, an average of only 33% of households have savings to cover 3 months of expenses. Federal Reserve surveys consistently show that nearly 40% of all Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. This vulnerability leaves millions of families just one car repair or medical bill away from financial disaster. States that are doing better. For comparison, states like Utah, Minnesota, and New Hampshire have some of the lowest paycheck-to-paycheck rates in the nation, with less than 50% of residents reporting this financial stress. These states tend to combine relatively strong job markets, moderate costs of living, and higher levels of financial literacy. Utah leads the pack with an estimated personal savings rate above 7% and nearly 55% of households reporting healthy emergency funds. What can be done? Financial experts recommend several strategies to break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Starting an emergency fund, even with just $25 per paycheck, can make a difference over time. Automating savings, tracking spending with budgeting apps, and exploring higher-paying job opportunities are all practical steps. On a policy level, advocates push for higher minimum wages, expanded access to affordable housing, and better financial education in schools. Conclusion: living paycheck to paycheck is a reality for millions of Americans across every state, from the poorest rural communities to the most expensive coastal cities. Whether it's Mississippi at 74% or California at 67%, the financial stress is real and widespread. Understanding where the problem is worst is the first step toward finding solutions. All data in this video is approximate and based on recent estimates. If you found this video informative, hit that like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Does your state's ranking surprise you?